Part 2 of the 14 ways to maintain a romantic relationship and avoiding it making it stale and boring. First up, we have self-sacrifice. Often with romantic or social relationship, there will be certain instances where some sacrifices must be made, and sometimes at your cost. In order to avoid breakups or cause any damage to the relationship, both you and your partner need to be able to put some amount of disutilities to yourselves. And many studies support this, as this is an important part of your partner you want to see to determine if that person is worth keeping. But of course, moderation is a must, and trying to cover for everything will destroy your mental state. You need to make sure you establish a boundary of how much sacrifice you'll be making before the relationship fully blooms. Alright, that was point 5, so we're moving on to point 6, which is having a moderate amount of forgiveness. Plenty of past studies, including this one, have this as the method you can use to maintain a healthy relationship with your romantic partner, for pretty similar reasons I've talked about with self-sacrifice. However, many people tend to slip up a bit and forgive too much towards their partner's behavior that shouldn't be forgiven so easily. I've made the same mistake in the past with one of my exes, where something happened that clearly should have been her fault, but I made the mistake of covering her for her mistakes. Looking back at this event, I can clearly say that I made a stupid mistake, but for understandable reasons. Even though my ex was super toxic and manipulative, I did love her at the time, and that emotion clouded my judgment. So you can avoid this mistake by having certain standards that you seek in your partner, kind of like the golden rule, which you make sure to tell your partner during the beginning stages of the relationship, and emphasize that these rules are important for them to follow because it's your golden rule, and expect them to put importance on them and to follow them. But of course, no one is perfect, so your partner might break the rule once or twice by accident or something, and in some cases, you shouldn't cut them off because of a single error, but it should make you at least a little bit cautious. And yes, balancing all this to determine whether or not and at which point you decide your partner is not worth it is very difficult. And the study doesn't specify this part that much because this part of judging completely depends on the person. But yes, that was the 6th point, forgiving your partner, but not too much. Number 7, 7th point is knowledge of some kind of stress relief. A lot of times when couples break up, it usually follows some other stressful situation. It's a pretty typical scenario where you are bickering with your partner about something that is supposed to be trivial by itself, but that bickering soon becomes a real fight where it becomes a heated argument and turns into a vicious yelling match, and finally you two yell to each other, "Fine, it's over!" and the relationship gets executed. Of course, how a relationship ends depends on the person, but my point is that these trivial bickerings can totally become a fuse that starts a fire and ends horribly. And these bickerings are in most cases really easy to solve and mitigate by themselves, but because it seems so insignificant, people often neglect to take care of them, and thus people do not actively educate themselves on knowing how to avoid and solve these types of glitches. If you do know a technique or two and make a strong habit of doing these activities when things don't go smoothly, you will not only have a method of daily de-stressing, but you can also be assured that this whatever method you two came up with can be an option when necessary. And the detail of the method itself can vary in many ways, and not every kind of de-stressing activity works the same on everybody. But the important thing here is the enthusiasm. I know I'm kind of repeating, but this is important. It isn't enough to just do any of these techniques only during times of a crisis, but you need to practice them with your partner regularly, even when there is no issue to solve. And also, it would be even better if both partners work together to solve the issue as a team and try to come up with ideas for de-stressing. Number 8, we have mutual support. I don't think I need to explain this anymore because I've mentioned it in other parts, so I'll summarize. This one is about the daily trivial actions you can take that indicates to your partner that you two are a team. So, helping out with chores and stuff is an easy, actionable stuff, or helping out when your partner is doing something that is not important to you, but is to them. So if your partner has like a year-long goal that they want to achieve, even though it's not directly related or important to you, you actively support them so that they can successfully achieve that goal. The notion of teaming, which was mentioned before, was about the overall identity that you two have on each other. So mutual support is about the actual helping hand. That's my interpretation at least. Moving on, number 9, something you can do to further strengthen a romantic relationship is random acts of kindness. Keep in mind though, when I say that this point in particular is more of an extra sprinkle that you can put on your relationship, because you can't expect a strong and a healthy relationship by doing this, but neglecting to do the essential responsibilities that you were expected of. More than a few people see a problem in their relationship and immediately jump to this option without fixing any other bigger and obvious issues. You just won't get the same result if you cut the branches first before you cut down the tree itself. Nonetheless, random acts of kindness will definitely be something you can relatively easily do that'll most likely put a smile in your partner's face, so you definitely should try this. Okay, we're moving on to number 10, which is appreciation. In almost all cases, I don't think anybody's going to feel bad by being appreciated. And if they're being thanked by their partner, it's quite natural for them to feel happy and satisfied, right? So that's something you can do very easily. One thing to be careful of is that, along with random acts of kindness, your sign of appreciation has to be noticed by the opponent. You can't just show a super subtle sign of appreciation, or one that can only be understood by you, and expect your partner to notice and feel happy. Remember, whether or not your partner notices your appreciation or your kind action is completely dependent on them. All you can do is show your appreciation in a way that's easy for your partner to notice. This is pretty important because when people think of showing appreciation to their partners, they often come up with how they can show it based on what makes them happy. And in most cases, unless your partner also likes that kind of stuff you do, they won't notice it the same way. If you like cars but your partner doesn't, then giving your partner a brand new car won't send the message that you want them to receive, that this is a sign of you saying thank you. And what often happens when people find out that their partner didn't get the message is that they get confused on why the message wasn't received correctly, and sometimes they even blame the fault on their partner, thinking, I've done so much for my partner but they didn't notice my appreciation, my girlfriend or boyfriend is manipulating me, or something similar. So the message considering random acts of kindness and appreciation is, either just stick to doing what generally makes everyone happy, and only go to the niche if you're absolutely sure that'll make your partner happy. Okay, I was gonna make this three-parter, but I think we can just finish the topic with just two videos. Number 11. Now we're moving on to taking a third person perspective. What you do here is, together with your partner, you take a third person stance on the current relationship and the potential future of it. Basically, once in a while, sit down with your partner and think about how you two are as a couple and how the relationship might grow and change in the future. This is also easier said than done because you can so easily cloud your judgment on the relationship by how you feel right now rather than reality. And having a realistic point of view is especially hard when thinking about the long-term future. That's why I would advise you to start out with how you two were as a couple today, aka the immediate past, and then move on to what you can start right now to make or keep a stable and healthy relationship, and how you two can continue doing that for the far future. It can be like, okay, so looking at how we were today, I've noticed that I often cut you off when you were talking, only because I had so much things to say, but I was doing that even during our regular conversation. So I'd imagine I'm most definitely cutting you off during a heated argument. You can see here that this person is taking a third person stance to observe their action and talking about a potential issue that they might face in the future as a result. And likewise, the other person would talk about their action of the day from a third person point of view and discuss how it can potentially grow to become an issue. And both sides of the relationship would have at least a basic understanding of their relationship status from a non-biased perspective. By taking a non-biased POV of their relationship, they would be able to spot any kind of tingles that could potentially become a legitimate issue in the future and sow the seeds of any future problem. And the study says that you can do this more effectively if you take a third person point of view to objectively observe your relationship. Some ways you can do this is by literally using third person pronouns when having this discussion. My previous video talked about the we talk, in which you include a plural first person pronouns like we or us when referring to your relationship. And the point that I talked about today is something similar to it in terms of escaping a single perspective or like a one-sided stance during an important discussion. Okay, that was it for third person perspective. Now we're headed to number 12, humor. This is a pretty interesting one. So, according to the professor's claim, having humor adds a lot of positivity and life into your romantic and other kinds of relationship. Now, having said this, I don't mean this as in you have to become a comedian for the relationship to succeed. I know that doesn't seem like the ideal method for a lot of people. What the researcher is saying is that you can use humor to lighten any kind of negative mood or a stressful situation. You can see a lot of this in TV shows and movies, where the jokey, why so serious character can lighten the mood in a situation that would normally be really intense. These people are really good at finding the funny and any kind of positivity in many situations, even if it doesn't seem so humorous at first glance. So, an example of having humor in a romantic relationship is something like you two are having a picnic at the park, and suddenly it starts raining and you two get drenched. The situation itself is not so fun, but you can use humor and say things like, I'm actually happy that it rained because I got to see you looking so drenched and sexy. You probably shouldn't say that when you're first approaching a person. But you see what I'm talking about, right? By being creative, you use the negative situation, a sudden rain during a picnic, and turn it into something positive by looking at it from a different perspective. This is the essence of how you can use humor to build or maintain a romantic relationship. This type of humor is called self-enhancing humor, and to learn more about this and the broader genre of humor, I'll recommend the book you can read called Humor, Seriously: Why Humor is a Secret Weapon in Business and Life by Jennifer Aaker. As the title shows, certain types of humor are very versatile and can be used in many different situations, not just romantically. I recommend this book a lot, and yeah, so you should definitely read it to learn more about how you, despite not being the ultimate funny person, can use humor in many areas of your life. So that was humor. Up next we have, oh, right, it's the last one. And finally, the 14th technique you can use to maintain and further improve your romantic relationship is shared experiences. Yeah, the final part was kind of obvious, but the whole point of this list is to apply to the most amount of people, so it should be obvious. Many studies, even beyond the one that I introduced today, points this one as an important method you can use to further enrich your romantic relationship. Personally, I think it's one of, if not the number one most influential item in this list. I don't really think a full explanation is necessary, but it essentially means experiencing many things in life, things that you two can enjoy together, creates an opportunity for you to become close. Having a picnic at the park while talking about your life is really good. Or you two can go on a roller coaster, which is an activity that is enjoyable and fairly stimulating and exciting. This can also be a good one. Or playing a leisure sport together could work well too. Or eating out at a restaurant that you two have never tried before. Or playing a video game together. Pretty much whatever works for the two of you is good. The professor mentions that it'll be the best if you two can communicate during the leisure activity. By doing that whatever leisure activity, the couple will be able to communicate, which will further deepen the understanding the couple will have on each other. So maybe it would be better if you decided to watch a movie together. You might want to watch it at home, where you can freely talk rather than in a movie theater. The professor also says that the increase of opportunity to communicate with each other by itself is important, but it's also good because this type of communication allows both of you to understand you and your partner's role in the relationship. So, by playing sports together, a 2v2 badminton match with another beautiful couple, for instance, you can firmly understand my girlfriend wants me to serve every time. Maybe she wants me to take the lead in other things in life. Or my boyfriend gets really excited and puts on a beautiful smile when I praise him for his talent. He might be the type of person who improves the more I praise him. By doing that leisure activity together or sharing a fun experience, couples will have more opportunities to talk and share about that experience, which will lead to further understanding of each other. Yeah, so this is pretty important, huh? And with that, we are finished with the 14 points you want to keep in mind when developing a romantic relationship with your love. Reading the study, I was honestly pretty surprised by the positive assumption and interpretation. I was not thinking of these two when first reading the study, but now that I think about it, yeah, I can pretty confidently say that they will have a significant benefit on your romantic relationship. But anyways, you'll be able to check out the book I recommended today through the Amazon link in my description section. And I don't think I did a video recommendation, so let's do that. If you haven't already, you can totally check out the part 1 of this duology. And besides that, you might also find interest in a video called Love That Will Last Long: Personalities of a Healthy Couple. The title pretty much says it all, but if you're looking for a long-term relationship and a partner that not only lets you do lovey-dovey together, but also brings personal improvement and positivity in your life. If you're looking for these kind of people, then you might want to check this video out. One thing that might make the video interesting is that there's a certain types of personalities that goes really well together. So if you have this kind of personality and the other person have this other kind of personality, you two will have a major chance of becoming a really strong, good couple. And the multiple personalities talked about in the video are ones from what is called the Big Five personality, which is a very reliable source when examining the personalities of different people that might become a great couple. So yeah, you should definitely check this video out if you're interested. And that's it for today's video. You've been watching Life Study Library. This was your host, Lye Yosh. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in another video. Peace out.